With a refined eye and an instinct for balance, Tanner Morgan has built Morgan Madison into a brand that marries timeless design with modern soul. His work captures the quiet poetry of form and material, spaces that feel not just seen, but felt. Tanner approaches design as both craft and conversation, where every decision tells a story of intention, beauty, and connection. This is Beyond the Design with Tanner Morgan of Morgan Madison. Well, Tanner, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Well, thank you for taking the time. I'm just going to get right into it. The joke is that you probably had design critiques for your own crib and onesie. Have you always known you were wired for design and architecture?
It's interesting. I feel like there are certain people who are kind of born to do what they do. And as Jen, the other half of Morgan Madison, likes to say and joke, that's actually her joke. I really do feel like it was a very early calling and kind of inspiration and a draw that just naturally happened for me.
Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through what first sparked your interest in the built environment and when you knew you wanted to pursue it professionally, and this is what your calling was?
Sure. It's actually, it really started very early when most kids would, play with toys and I would kind of move things around. I would kind of reimagine environments and, think about how to make something cool or different or an experience. And then from that, it actually went into holiday decorating. That was kind of my first career, as I like to say. And that's really where the early beginnings of Morgan Madison started, which was holiday clients. So from childhood to holiday and everything in between, that was truly the early days and the early beginnings.
Well, how has your passion for materiality and construction influenced the way you approach design today?
That's actually a really interesting question and concept. I really feel like to be a great designer and to provide a client with something that's really remarkable, you really have to have an understanding of how it's created. And whether that's, an artisanal custom piece or whether that's actually something as simple as how two materials meet in a particular room. I think that having that understanding is really important, and I think that it creates definitely a difference in terms of the experience of the project, and actually not only what you get at the end as a final product, but it actually can make things a lot smoother. And I would say that working really closely with general contractors to bring things to fruition is really how we've kind of cultivated that really that specialty in terms of materiality, and really getting to the down into the nuts and bolts of how a material works, how it performs, how it lasts, how it's installed. All of those things are really important to creating a design that's not only dynamic and intricate, but also it's functional and it's sustainable. It lives on after you take a pretty picture.
It has a little bit more sustainability and a legacy to it. It's just not something that you change out in 2 years' time.
Exactly. We do not want installations to fail. That is then we have not done our job correctly.
Yeah, he wouldn't be getting a call back. What's one architectural detail you're obsessed with right now?
I think that architectural details are can be something as fine as a trim detail. We love, anytime we get to work with moldings and woodwork and get to do some really special things in terms of even doorways. One thing that I really have been really focused on in our projects and really interested in personally are reveal details around windows and doors. So it's a way to create a sense of depth and kind of a journey and an experience rather than, even something as simple as a trimmed out doorway, having depth built into the actual structure so that there's that reveal that returns back to the window or returns back to the door. I think that is something that we're definitely focused on and thinking about in our projects. And I think that it's definitely become it's a centuries old idea, but I think that designers and architects are really paying more attention in recent years.
If your personality were a building material, what would it be and why?
Definitely marble. I joke that I would live in a mausoleum. I love marble. I love stone in general, but marble, of any type is always something I'm drawn to. The history, the kind of dynamic quality, the color, the depth. So if I were a building material, I would definitely be stone and specifically marble.
Okay. Is it because of the movement and the way it kind of reflects light and changes? I think changes personality.
It's definitely a part of it. I think that it really is about the depth and the fact that it's a natural material. We at Morgan Madison, we always use natural materials whenever possible. That's kind of our go-to. We're not necessarily drawn initially to man-made materials unless we have certain specifications or requirements. I think we're naturally, as individual designers and as a team, as an office, we are drawn to natural. And so I think it's the fact that it's of the earth. It isn't, no two pieces are exactly the same.
True, yeah.
The depth, the kind of history of it is there's an allure and an interest there that I think is definitely the spark.
What's one project you've seen in the world that made you stop in your tracks?
Well, in the world of Instagram, we see so much so often, right? It's everybody's kind of like, we call it, I refer to it as the doom scroll when you're just sitting there going through all the content. And most recently, I think that the whole world has kind of been captivated by Architectural Digest sharing Lenny Kravitz Parisian home. And I think that just the styles, the differences in styles and materials that were all blended together in a really cool and interesting way definitely stopped me in my tracks. There's an image that everybody I think should look at, and it's this beautiful hall with this brutalist bronze console that is truly a work of art. And I think that whenever you see, personally, when I'm looking at work that isn't ours, I'm always drawn to work where elements, whether it's furniture, lighting, materials, are more art or more sculpture than they are, tied to a specific piece or a specific function. I think that's really something that always catches my interest.
That's a good one to compare to, because I saw it and it's like, wow, it's so elegant.
Yes.
And
yes.
It fits him, but it's unexpected of how it fits him in a way.
Exactly. And it's very, very dynamic, and there's a great mix and a kind of eclectic quality to it, which I think, that kind of harkens back to what we do. There's not necessarily, we don't have a style as an interior design firm. We really are focused on kind of the blend or the mix. And so I think that that's definitely part of what makes that particular project so special and intriguing.
So tell us a little bit about Morgan Madison and how that came about.
Sure. So Morgan Madison, so like I said, I kind of started as a child with an interest, and then I went into holiday decorating and went through school, and actually, didn't love going to school for interiors. I found it to be a little bit kind of, I felt like it was kind of in a box, right?
Very restrictive, yeah.
And while I definitely learned technical abilities, which we use, I use today, I think that there are many great designers that have no formal training. So I'm not one of those people that necessarily thinks that you have to have formal training to be a great designer. So after college, I went actually into another business. I actually did a stint in marketing and sales, field development training, and for jewelry companies, which was sort of my master class in business, I like to say, and really taught me the personal skills and the relational skills to do what I do with clients today. I think that was definitely the foundation. And so I actually met a wonderful designer who had spent 20 years in New York City, and I was in Cleveland working at the time. And Jennifer Luari was working in running a showroom in Cleveland. And we actually met over our kind of shared love of beautiful things and beautiful materials and passion for creating dynamic stories with those. And so what started out as a sales relationship turned into a friendship and then turned into a partnership. And she is the other half of Morgan Madison today. So that's kind of the short version of the evolution of Morgan Madison design.
Your projects reflect both beauty and rigor. How do you strike that balance between creative vision and technical execution?
Well, I think that we simply don't compromise is the answer to that. Creating a beautiful environment, bringing a beautiful design to life is having a beautiful picture for Instagram or a portfolio is obviously important. But at the end of the day, these are living interiors, exteriors, and experiences that we're designing for clients. So it's really important that the technicality and the execution match the level of intention and heart and soul that we put into the actual design. So I think that it really is important for us. We work, obviously with our clients very closely, and I am very involved in that aspect, managing clients, the relationships, the wishes, the dreams, the hopes, the desires,
right,
and really the personalities also. And then also taking that knowledge and that ability to manage the relationships on the technical side, whether it's with our relationship and partnership with architects, builders, even down to tradespeople. I think sometimes trades, they're like, oh gosh, here he comes, because they know that I am quite picky in particular. So there's a certain way that things should be done, and that's the kind of expectation. So we're very involved in the process. We're just as much, I would say, project managers as we are designers, and that enables us to alleviate the surprises that can happen along the way in the process, and also it really helps us deliver a product that is just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, in the physical form as it is in the photo for Instagram or the portfolio.
Right. Well, you're known for a tenacious approach to project management. You could say picky. How do you ensure both artistic and operational sides of a project are in sync?
The entire team has some level of visibility. So we're partnering together internally as Morgan Madison. And then we have point, people and a lot of times that comes down to Jen and I when we're working with the builder, the architect, the landscape architect, and we're involved with their teams. So we're not only just delivering information and saying, this is the design, this is our expectation, but we're also following up with those various people that are a part of the team and collaborating with them, and also working with their trades, their installers, their artisans, because it's really important. I think it's a partnership, truly. And that's how we deliver the end result. And also we make the process as painless as possible. I think the design process is never linear. It is definitely a journey, and it's winding. But the more we are involved with our client, the more we're involved with the execution from the aspect of the builder and the architect and their respective people, I think we're able to execute a better quality product, and we're able to kind of mitigate the challenges and surprises and kind of, oh wait, that's not exactly how we thought it would look, that can happen along the way if you're not involved. I mean, we worked with builder. It's amazing to me, specifically I would say builders, the number of builders we work with that will make comments like, Tanner, we don't have other designers who are on the project as much. And we don't see them, and we can't. It's hard to get them to come to a project, and it's really interesting because I don't know how you can design and not be present on a project, right. Especially checking in, weekly. I think it's really important.
Well, especially when you have such a variable of craftsmen and people working on a project, not that you have to overshadow them, but you have to make sure that things are getting done and things are getting done appropriately.
Absolutely. And especially when we're, the level of work that we're executing, a lot of times we have artisans in other states, in other countries. And so that communication of, about the actual product that's being produced and then what's happening with it when it gets to the job site is really important. So that it's a lot of transmitting of information.
True. Yeah. Well, what's your process when evaluating materials for a space? Are you drawn to certain finishes or innovations in building science?
Definitely natural materials first, as I said. And then we always like to evaluate, how it's being used. And if it's being, making sure we're using it, in the intended way and it's being installed in the intended manner, I think that's really important. I think also we try to think about materials also differently. So thinking about, unique uses for metal, for stone, for wood, and ways to integrate those into a design. We're kind of known for a mix in materiality, and a lot of our projects and specifically in our photography because it's, our photography is obviously our spaces, but in our spaces, we typically have a lot of different materials meeting, whether it's stone, wood, wall covering, a tile or, a wall material or system. Right. A lot of things are meeting together at various points, and it's really important to execute. I always say, the first time when I'm talking to a builder very early on in a project, I'm like, plumb, square, level. If you can execute those three things for me, like that's my base level expectation. Right. And if we're on the same page there, we're going to have no problem. The basics. Whenever you have materials meeting each other, it's really important that you have things that are plumb, square, and level. Otherwise, the mistakes and the flaws are definitely going to show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be so apparent. Dream location to design a home or dream location for a project?
Because we're kind of based all over, Kansas City, Kentucky, Ohio, now entering into the Scottsdale market, we are very fortunate to get to work in a lot of different kind of environments, and each kind of area culturally has different, client needs and presents different needs. So that's always really interesting. I personally love a mountain home. And so therefore, anytime we're tasked with a second home, a mountain home, beautiful views, I think that is always a dream project for me. I also really love creating, taking something that's more expected and mundane, and in terms of an environment for a home and as in a location and a site, and giving it a sense of place if there isn't a sense of place. I think that that's always a really interesting design problem to solve and a challenge that we don't shy away from.
What's one architectural style you think is due for a comeback?
It's so interesting. I am not a mid-century modern person. I love elements, but to go full out in the style, it's not necessarily our vibe. I love Art Deco. I love those. I think it's had and having it's come back constantly, whether it's in certain elements or in, stylistically. I always personally am drawn to Spanish, colonial, Mediterranean, that sense of authenticity when it comes to materiality and construction, and the sort of romance and whimsy of it is always something that we look forward to on a project if we're presented the opportunity to work in those styles. Even if it's not a full project, right? Even if we're not doing something full out Mediterranean, introducing just like moments of that whimsy and that romance is always a really dynamic way to tell a story and to introduce kind of a worldly approach to design and interiors.
I think Art Deco just had a classic, not in the true word of classic, but a classic approach,
Truly.
Through society. It wasn't formal, but it was always elegant and sophisticated, both in the architecture, the style, the clothing, that every aspect of that movement. So I get that completely.
We completely agree. And it's funny you mentioned those words because whenever we're often asked, what's your style as a designer? Many designers are asked that question. And we always say we don't necessarily have a style, but there will always be this essence of timeless, this timeless quality, this class, this elegance that is there. There will always also be a modern edge, but without those classic elements and the timeless style, you run the risk of going too far down the path of a trend, and that's definitely something we shy away from. So I love that you mentioned that when it comes to the Art Deco movement, because I think that it's very, very true.
Yeah, it's very true, and it's not a fad.
No,
it's a style and it's appeal, and I think it's timeless as well, as you said. So
truly a mainstay. It's truly something that's not going anywhere.
And hopefully it comes back strong.
Exactly. It sticks around for many years to come and decades to come.
Yes. In high stakes, fast paced environments, how do you keep teams motivated and focused on quality and creativity and making sure they're doing squares and level and everything else?
Well, I think it's really important. I think communication style is really important. I think that listening skills are very important and something that we're kind of, it's something that we're almost losing, I think, as a society, because everything is moving in such a digital, has been for many years has been moving in such a digital method and means of communication. I think that there's magic that's lost when it comes to picking up the phone or, like I said, going on to a job site and having the conversations, knowing. I always say I will never claim to know every answer or how to solve every problem, but I guarantee you I will find the person to ask, right? It's asking those questions, communicating with people. And I think that also when mistakes happen or challenges arise, meeting them with grace is really important, because instead of beating somebody down or beating somebody up over a mistake or something that happened, you can really maintain their interest and their personal investment and excitement about the project if you go about it in a bit of a different way. So I think that those kind of things are how we mitigate and manage those high stakes environments, especially when, costs are expensive, materials are expensive, time is expensive. And we want to obviously be mindful of that for our clients, but we also want to respect our trades and our artisans that help us bring that to life for the clients.
Well, I think communication is a key aspect, and knowing that if you don't have the answer, like you said, we don't know everything, we will get it for you instead of telling the client, I don't know. Well,
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to go to this person and ask the question. And I didn't quite get where I needed to go. Okay, next person. And then you just keep going around until you find somebody that has the answer that can help you get where you ultimately want to go.
Right. If your design process had a theme song, what would it be?
It's so funny. We did a bespoke series a while back, and the music that we put in the bespoke series was a series of short videos where we walk through the design of custom elements for projects. And we used Vivaldi, Four Seasons, because
favorite.
I think that is just it's kind of a part of our essence. It's a part of our DNA. It feels very much the mood. and the vibe.
I love that. That's one of my favorites. No matter when it is, time of day, I'll play that. It just gets me in that mood.
Exactly.
It just gets you in that mood.
It's always the right tone.
Yep,
for sure.
Exactly. What's one thing clients are always surprised to learn about the design or construction process?
That it truly is not linear, and and that doesn't mean there's a problem with the process. And in fact, it is a journey. Life's a journey. Evolution is a journey. Change is a journey. And ultimately, what we're entrusted to do is work on behalf of our clients to give them a finished product, a result that they can't arrive at on their own, or they don't wish to. Some clients are extremely capable in terms of style and essence, and they understand what they want, and they have great taste, but they may not have the time to invest to create it, create the final product for themselves. So I think that it's really about finding those ways to communicate and ways to build the relationship, to pull it out of them, so that you're able to deliver in essence more than they're anticipating.
Right. Expect less, deliver more.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, tell us a little bit about some of the current projects you're working on.
We have a really exciting project, and we just wrapped up a beautiful townhome or brownstone in Chicago, which was really exciting and fun. As our first time working in that city. We wrapped up a beautiful lake home in the past couple of years, which is one of those homes. It was an opportunity of a lifetime, and it will forever be, 20 years down the road, that particular project and home will always be a part of the essence and DNA of Morgan Madison. So we love those. Currently, we have a really exciting and very unique project in Northwest Arkansas, and I said that when I first went to the site visit, I actually went to the site visit with no client present, which was really, really unique and interesting, and actually very cool because I just got to go around and experience what was existing, and then dream up from what information I did have, what I saw and as an opportunity. So that project was really fun. And I joked that it was the first time I think I'd ever been to the state of Arkansas, which is beautiful, by the way. We have a really cool project on the back burner in upstate New York, which I'm from Eastern Kentucky, which the Appalachian Mountains. So, and which most people don't realize stretch all the way up to beyond upstate New York, but it really is interesting because it feels very much like home. So we're working on a concept for a hospitality boutique retreat experience. So that is really fun because we love whenever we get to venture into that hospitality experience, truly experiential design for public consumption. We love the branding aspect and the kind of opportunity to create that sense of place. So that's something that we're currently working on that we love. And then we have a very cool project in Kansas City, and which is where I'm based a lot of the time. And it's taking kind of otherwise unremarkable 2000s architecture and giving it architectural integrity and interest. And it's a phased project. So we really got to develop the design language by stripping everything down and then reimagining what it could be.
Well, that kind of skews me into the next question I have. How do you incorporate storytelling into your projects? Do you think of a design narrative?
Yes. And there's no certain way that develops necessarily. Like people are always asking, that's a great question. People are always asking, do you tell a story? Ken Folk is one of my favorite designers, and he is. It's because he's magical and fanciful, and there's always this narrative and story, and his are kind of like movies, right?
Right.
And we're not that specific, but I love that approach to design, and I think that every design, whether it's an interior experience we're working on for a client, an exterior experience, or truly a lifestyle experience or event we're working on for a client, I think that there's always this potential and possibility to create a moment, a mood, and that really does first begin with an intention and a story. So I think that realizing the intent behind any design is the beginning of that narrative and the beginning of that story.
So when you walk into a blank space and you close your eyes, do you see the experiential environment that you want to
pursue? Yes, yeah. I do. It's funny. It actually does begin there before it ever hits a page, right? Or before the first material is pulled from the library. It really does because there's a certain, and this is kind of goes back to certain people I think are born to do what they do. And the training is almost secondary, irrelevant to the success sometimes. Because it really is that vision, right? That's why clients entrust a great architect, a great designer, a great landscape architect to their dream, to building their dream, because it comes down to, they obviously have certain wants and needs, right? They have certain dreams, but it's you're really entrusting a professional with a gift to create for you. And I think that does begin with just an innate vision, whether you know the client or not. Sometimes the first time you walk into that blank slate, or that we've walked onto a field before,
right,
where nothing existed, and there is just this intrinsic and innate ability to kind of feel what it should be or what it could be.
What drives, motivates, and inspires Tanner Morgan?
I think that is a wonderful question. I think travel, for sure, for something that's just very easy for people to understand and can have a connection to. I think travel obviously has always been inspiring to me. I think a certain amount of wanderlust and sense of discovery is always there. It could be, on the side of a mountain on a hike, right? Or it could be in the flea markets of Paris, right? There's always this sense of discovery and kind of romance that I am searching for. And that can go from an object that I'm curating for a client to snapping an image of an architectural detail that I see while I'm traveling. I think that inspiration is first and foremost in the natural world. So as we've talked about, natural materials being something that we're drawn to, that the natural world is a great source of inspiration. And then beyond that, the built environment. So whether it's, like I said, a hike, or whether it's wonderful travels abroad, or even going to downtown to the city you live in, or the city nearest you, and just really being present in the world around you, I think is where I truly draw a lot of inspiration.
I tell a lot of individuals when I was mentoring and as a teacher, and keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. Close it if you're not seeing something, and then reopen it, and you'll see something different.
Exactly.
And that will give you inspiration to anything,
Exactly.
And always carry a sketchbook with you.
A sketch, absolutely. And you have this wonderful device that we all carry with us every day. And it's a great way to catalog that inspiration. And, as you're mentioning a sketchbook, if you don't have time to do it in the moment, it's a great opportunity to take an image for later. And then the sketching process, I love that you brought that up, is really even if you're not in the moment physically looking at the thing that you're sketching, you're looking at an image of it. It really is a way to dive deeper to why you're sketching what you're sketching and why it drew you in the first place.
True. Very, very true. Have you ever had a moment where a client's idea completely shifted your vision for a project and in a good way?
Yes, I think all the time. I think all the time, because I always say it's a very delicate balance, right? And it goes back to that relationship with the client. Ultimately, we're providing a service. We're providing a vision, but we're also providing a service, and we're providing an experience. Those things are really important not to forget. We may be the expert, but listening and being able to extract both the information that they're sharing with you and what they're not able to say is really important to the success of the client relationship and ultimately the product that you deliver in the end. And I think that that clients often have a very different way of seeing things, and they're looking at it and from a very personal perspective. And so paying attention to those personal intricacies and ideas and things that are important always are really inspiring ways to really put the client first, and can inform your design in a way that otherwise, you're just prescribing something without really listening and really building that relationship. Very true.
What design trends are exciting you right now, and which ones do you think we'll all laugh about in 5 years?
That's a fun question. I am so glad we've said goodbye to the barn door. I know that's not an answer, but I'm glad we've said goodbye. I'm glad we've said goodbye to. I think that first of all, let me not knock those people that love a neutral. I think neutrals can be done in a really dynamic and beautiful way. I think the all gray everything being gone is something I wish to never see return. It's chilly, it's cold, it's not inspiring, it's not exciting. And I think that neutrals, when done well, can be all of those things. It can be invigorating, exciting, inspiring, and very layered. I love kind of going back, like I said, there's these centuries old materials and ways of constructing that I think are really, really impactful, and we need to pay attention to and hold on to. And one of those that I think is really coming back in interiors and in a very modern way is the use of plaster. And I think that whether you're using plaster in a very traditional form to create a really ornate, cool molding, or whether you're, molding the handrail of a staircase with a beautiful reveal in it that may have light in it, which we've done on a recent project. I think that plaster is something that's that we're seeing as a trend, but it's not really a trend. It's just it's a rediscovery of a centuries old method that is really still very viable.
How do you persuade a client that's afraid of color?
It's so interesting.
Especially like paint. A lot of people do not like paint for some various reasons. And there is sustainable and friendly paint out there now.
For sure.
So how do you kind of, for those that don't want paint, they just want white rooms. How do you
How
do you persuade a client to add some color to their life?
White rooms are not our thing. So whenever clients, and I think that our work kind of speaks to that too. So people aren't really asking us for that very often. But here's what I would say to the client that is, or to the designer that's struggling with how to have those conversations. And it's really goes back again to the ability to listen and have your client feel heard, even if you're trying to steer them in a direction that is different than where, they may innately want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we just had this happen on a project just this past week where we had presented an idea to a client months ago, and we had the buy-in, or what we thought was the buy-in. And then the journey to bringing that to fruition was kind of windy, as the design process often is.
Yeah.
And we, are having the conversation now where we're going back to the client asking for the buy-in again. And it really those conversations, if it's about color, if it's about a material, if it's about a style, if it's about a decision about what the material or the look and style of their front door, right? It could be a host of things. It's really, I think, goes back to your ability as a designer to build the relationship, build the trust. And then even when you're trying to move the needle or move the client in a different direction, it's your ability to make them feel heard and let them know that you're listening to them, even when you're even when your idea is slightly different and you're trying to get them to a place that you kind of know is best, or the sweet spot, or something that's really interesting and unique and special. It's your ability to kind of move them in a way that isn't saying, I'm the decision maker, I'm the designer, it's my way or the highway. It's that ability to kind of massage the conversation and let them know, I'm listening to you, I understand, but ultimately my compass and my feeling based on getting to know you and the relationship we built is that you're going to be really happy here if you can just entrust me to get you there and empower me to do so.
Well,
that's the key to the success in any type of a conversation, especially a conversation surrounding color with a client. That's
like you said, it's about honesty and trust, and they're hiring you for a reason. So that communication level and just gliding it smoothly,
exactly, gently. We work in a space that's extremely personal. You can become the therapist. You oftentimes know everything. You have access to a ton. And these projects are years of hard work, savings, risks, chances that are oftentimes resulting in this ability to create something new, whether that it be a renovation or a brand new construction project, or just reimagining a core portion of their home. And I think that understanding that the fact that it's extremely personal and it can be very emotional is a really important to hold on to whenever you're working with your clients, and kind of handling those relationships, those emotions with care.
True, very true. Like you said, it's very interesting because I think a lot of designers or people in this industry, you get to know your clients very personally. You become their friend, you become their confidant, you could become their therapist, And so in having that trust factor and that relationship, it's about building a relationship. You don't go on one date and marry someone. So
exactly. Exactly. And much like the design process, it is a journey.
It is a journey. What are you most surprised about learning about yourself during this time of your journey?
I think resilience. I think I've learned to be very resilient. I think I not to make age a part of the conversation, but it is. I'm rather young in my in age and also in my career, but for my age, I've done a lot and I've seen a lot. So sometimes when I'm working with a client, in the early days, you can kind of get this. I sometimes get this kind of like, he doesn't understand because he's younger, or he doesn't, does he really know, right? So there can be a bit of that dynamic, and I think that just learning to be resilient and trust I've learned to be resilient, and I've also learned to trust that gut instinct. When a client comes to us and there's an immediate gut reaction that's not positive.
Mm-hmm.
I've always paid for it in the long run when I don't listen to that gut instinct. So the resilience, listening to your gut, trusting that inner compass is something that I've been reminded and re-reminded of recently in my journey as a designer and as a business owner.
Is there a personal ritual, space, or a creative practice you turn to when you need a fresh burst of inspiration?
Shopping. If I have what I always say, there are worse addictions, right?
Sure.
I think it's really inspiring, whether it's shopping at an antique store, at a junk store, the flea markets of Paris, watching the new season in terms of luxury design is always, fashion and interiors and that relationship. Jewelry for me, it was a part of my background. It's a part of jewelry is a part of my story that really did, I think, build me in many ways. And so looking at designs when it comes to jewelry, being a consumer, being in that consumer environment, whether you're purchasing or you're not purchasing, I think is really inspiring. The interiors of those spaces, the sense of discovery of, if you're wandering around the narrow streets and alleys of a flea market, especially the Paris flea market, I think that it's a really invigorating and an inspiring place to take in and to just cultivate that sense of discovery, because I think that that's really important as a designer, and it's definitely something I try to talk about whenever I'm talking to designers who are either in school or emerging from school and they're wanting to go into this is a profession.
Right.
I'm like, don't lose the sense of discovery. There's a lot of things that can beat us down as creative people, and that sense of wanderlust and discovery is really important to staying current and inspired, and kind of the lightness that we need as creatives to be able to transmit, for our clients.
Very, very true. And I think, like I said, keep your eyes open.
Always be looking. And it's, there's this statement also, always look up, like, don't forget to look up. And that's definitely true in the natural world, but it's extremely true in the built environment. And ceilings are a very dynamic way to inspire a lot of interest, for sure. So always be looking around is a really important thing to hold on to.
What's one dream project or location that would let you stretch your creativity and conceptually in designing?
I think I would love to do luxury retail. I think that is, I just spoke about shopping being a bit of an addiction and a bit of a habit, and also a place I draw inspiration. I think we've helped, like, especially earlier in my career, store owners create an experience, and that experiential quality of retail that's so important that it drives the consumer behavior. I would love to do that at the luxury level, because I think that you have the world at your fingertips in terms of what's possible. Not only because of the budgets, but also because you're creating an environment that is not only experiential, but with the sole purpose of selling a product, an actual physical product. And the interesting thing about that is that the product changes seasonally. So thinking about the fact that space is one that truly does have to evolve and be a bit of a chameleon, I think is a really interesting design problem to solve.
Well, that kind of brings up a question I have for you. Is there a final project, design principle, or a creative belief that you hold that you'd want every listener to carry with them? I think as a creative, I think I kind of mentioned this, but just to recap it, I think that
as a creative, maintaining that your source of inspiration is really important. And kind of that I for me, it's kind of like I have to keep myself and my spirit calm. We've talked about the high stakes environments, the budgets, the clients, all of the aspects that we manage to bring these experiences, these exteriors to life. And I think that there's obviously a lot of stress and anxiety that can be produced in doing so. And I think that that maintaining your kind of personal sense of peace and calm in those environments enables you to maintain that creative ability and wanderlust that produces the magic, right? That magic that we produce has to get fueled somewhere. And so I think it's make sure you don't forget to invigorate and fuel yourself and that desire to discover and dream and believe in yourself and your ability to make those dreams that you have come true.
True. We talked about some of the current projects that you're working on. What's next for you and Morgan Madison?
Well, we've been very fortunate to really develop, I think, a strong foundation for the language of our brand and the experience of our brand and how that relates to people. And so we are very excited to kind of enter into the new era of that and the next phase of that, which is going to be product. So stay tuned to see where that's going to land and what that's going to be. We're constantly designing, obviously for our clients. And sometimes I mentioned this a bit earlier that we're able to design truly custom or bespoke product. And so those designs that are born in actual problems we're solving for clients are always kind of in the back of our mind and turning around. And so those you can expect to see some innovation, I think, in the future of product from Morgan Madison, and specifically in potentially licensed collections, which we're very excited about. And I think that's really a space we're entering into. It's kind of the natural progression for a design firm that's focused on brand. But we're always looking for partners that believe in something beyond just creating beautiful product to buy and to for consumers to purchase, but that really enhance the everyday life and the everyday experience. So that's what we're focused on as we are designing, and we're looking into future product and collaborations to put out into the world. Slow. I like to refer to it as slow interiors, not necessarily slow, but we're intentional and thoughtful, and there's a purpose beyond just the fact that it's beautiful.
Right. The journey continues.
The journey does continue.
Well, Tanner, before we go, any final thoughts or advice for those looking to raise the bar in both design and execution?
I think that life is a journey. And speaking of journeys, we just kind of touched on that. Life is a journey. We are constantly evolving as humans, as people, as beings. And I think that is, that's a part of our need to evolve within our built environment, and for our built environment to evolve with us. And so I think that truly holding on to that sense of discovery and that sense of evolution for yourself, as designers or as clients, and being able to think about that and pay attention to that evolution is ultimately going to enhance the life that you live, because our environments do serve as a backdrop for life's moments and memories, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all of it. And so I think that those environments, whether they're interior or exterior, are meant to support us and lift us. So pay attention to that personal evolution that's happening. And I always like to think about how to design for that for my clients.
That makes sense. Well, Tanner, it's been an insightful and a very delightful conversation. I've had such a pleasure of meeting you today and having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time, and much continued success to you and Morgan Madison.
Thank you very much. It was a joy to be here, and I hope that the listeners took something from my kind of crazy mind up there that is constantly going in a million different directions. And I hope that there's inspiration that's able to be maintained and carried through, wherever your journey is leading, whether you're a client, a professional, an emerging professional. I think that there's always something to learn from others that are on the path. Well,
very, very true. It's all about vision, precision, leadership, and care, which obviously you and Morgan Madison have. So thank you
very much. Thank you.
You take care.
You as well.
Tanner Morgan reminds us that great design lives in the details, in the textures that invite touch, the light that shapes emotion, and the restraint that gives room for meaning. Through Morgan Madison, he continues to create spaces that resonate beyond aesthetics, crafted not just to impress, but to endure, inspire, and truly belong. Thank you, Tanner. This is Beyond the Design.
Hi, you're listening to a Pod for Good Media Network podcast. We are a network that provides podcasting production services and a supportive community in which podcasters can thrive. If you're a podcaster local in the Tulsa area, we would love to have your show on the network. If you are interested in starting one, we would love to help you get started. Find us online at podforgoodmedia.com and fill out our Pod With Us form. Happy podcasting.